Bruce.
I need to pound that harder.
Good.
Hey, welcome everyone to our city council meeting. We had a very long discussion on some very important topics to the city before this meeting with the work session, and so we apologize for a little late start. Those of you that may be tuning in by YouTube or Zoom, but we are now ready for our city council meeting. We want to make sure that we can conduct business by making sure we have a quorum, so let's go to the far end with Councilwoman Meekum and do a roll call.
Meekum present.
Summerhays present.
Heyman present.
Hurst present.
Plummer present.
All 5 members of council present and accounted for. We thank you for being here, and we thank staff that's here and members of the public that may be joining in. So let's do legislative prayer or thought from Council Member Brian Plummer.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll give a prayer. Thank you. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come together as staff and council members and a mayor and community members, and have the opportunity to serve our community and the people of Centerville. We are grateful for our life and our liberty in this great land, and we are grateful to you for the rain that we've received recently. We pray to you for guidance during this council session. We pray that we can act in the best interest of the people that we serve. We pray for those in authority in our state, in our nation, in the world, so that people everywhere may enjoy freedom and security and peace. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Councilmember Plummer. If you would all rise and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're now at the point of the open session. This is where anybody that's in with us on Zoom or in person can come to the microphone and say what might be on their mind. Try and keep your your comments to a couple of minutes, and just identify who you are and where you're from. Oh, you're showing us how we look on screen, it looks like. Wow, what a sight. Seeing that there's no one here to comment in the open session, we'll move on, and we'll go to the general business of the meeting. The first thing that we have tonight is we have an interlocal agreement with Bountiful City for police dispatch services. Always excited to look what's going on here, because this was one of the first things when I was first in office that we did in changing our dispatch services. So looking forward to any updates. So Chief, are you doing that, or is Lisa doing it, or?
I'm happy to, if you want. Yes, we recently had an audit, and as part of that realized that our interlocal agreement with Bountiful for dispatch services expired, and so we've just been going month to month on that service. But we transferred over from Davis County about 5 years ago, and we did quite a bit of research on that transition, and I think it's been a really good benefit for Centerville. And so we're recommending that we enter into another 5-year term. And in here, as part of the edits, we also added in one automatic renewal as long as neither party, provides notice prior to expiration. So we could get out if we wanted at that point, but we also can go another 5 years. So I think we just made a few corrections. not very many, just, and I did put in a red line version so you can see what's different from the last time. So, I'll turn it over to the chief to add something.
Yeah, I would just recommend the approval of the agreement. As the mayor stated, we switched over to Bountiful in 2018. One big reason for that, prior we were with the sheriff's office as our dispatch service for police, but Bountiful was the dispatch service in Centerville for fire EMS. And so there was a disconnect. And it was causing delay in time of dispatch for medicals, traffic accidents with injuries, so forth. So we made that change. We've had some minor hiccups through the period of time that we've been with Bountiful, but a lot of those have been ironed out. Things are going very well. We have monthly meetings, user meetings with Bountiful. It's a great relationship we have, and I think it's.
So Chief, have you found in that 6 years, almost 6 years, that switch has been overall a good thing then?
Yeah, I believe it has been. One of the things that it has really affected is our ability in the south end of the county to collaborate with each other and work closely with each other. Our allied agencies that are close to us on our west and south end. On our north end, we have, I'll just example, we have this much border with Farmington, and it's basically residential and kind of a low impact area from law enforcement perspective. On the south end, we have, this much of an area that we border between Bountiful and West Bountiful. And previously, we were dispatched by the sheriff's office, and West Bountiful and Bountiful were dispatched by Bountiful. So we were missing a lot of calls that were going on. We weren't interacting with Bountiful and West Bountiful a whole lot. Farmington, most of their activity is State Street and down and that, the complex down there, the commercial complex. So it really helped us engage more with the south end of the county. We really worked together very well in the south end. Yesterday was a prime example of it, just coordinating events and working together. So it's been very positive that way, and it has sped up our response times for EMS, fire.
Does
Isn't
anybody
there-
else use Bountiful Dispatch besides
Sorry,
us?
what?
Does any other city on the south end use Bountiful Dispatch besides us?
Yeah, so from us south, we're all on.
Oh, we're all
Bountiful.
on now, okay.
And there's been,
There are changes coming?
there are changes coming. There's been a lot of discussion in the last 2 years or so about dispatch services. The plan is for Farmington, or for Davis County Sheriff's Office to close down their dispatch center. Clearfield Police. So we used to have Clearfield dispatch, Layton dispatch, who only dispatched for Layton. And then you had the sheriff's office, and they dispatched for a number of agencies. And then you had Bountiful. So you had these different dispatch centers. You had 4 dispatch centers. We're going to reduce that down to 2. Clearfield has joined with Layton. Layton has built a whole new state-of-the-art facility to handle a large dispatch center there. So Layton's going to take the north end of the county. The sheriff's office dispatch center will be dissolved, and Bountiful will take the south end of the county. And there's talk of Farmington and maybe even Kaysville of joining Bountiful Dispatch, but I don't think anything's been decided on that yet. But we'll have 2 dispatch centers probably within the next 2 years.
How do you feel about that?
I think it's good. There was a push to have just 1 dispatch center for the county, and I opposed that. Several of the chiefs opposed that. I felt like it was important to have some redundancy and some more local, the dispatch centers are more familiar with their specific areas. You get too big of an area, it can get to where you don't have the effectiveness of your dispatchers being more familiar with the area that they're in and knowing what the resources are available there. When you make it too big, it gets a little too hard to handle. So I'm very happy about the 2 dispatch centers, and they do interoperate very well. As a side note, as of last January, we have all agencies in the county, including the jail, have gone to a single records management system and CAD system, computer-aided dispatch system, so they're all interoperable. I can see reports from Clearfield, Syracuse, North Salt Lake. We're all in the same system. It's partitioned in a sense, but we do have the ability to work together more as a unit. Our bad guys are their bad guys, and that way we can share information, not be silos. So it's been helpful.
So not only did the chiefs discuss this throughout our county, but this is an issue that came up a couple, 3 years ago in COG, the Council of Governments, with the mayors and the county commissioners. And there was some real push to go countywide. Most of the mayors, though, were very much like the chiefs, that they liked having it more localized. I talked to our chief many times. My biggest thing, not only was cost, but in saving a life. If it takes 2 or 3 minutes and you're losing a life because of it, I don't know how you put a cost on that. So that was a big thing as well too. One of the county commissioners invited me, wanted me to go to Weber to county to see how they do it with just one dispatch. He wanted all of us to, but he never arranged it. So and it's kind of died off. But it sounds like this is why that we kind of settled with Layton building facility.
Yeah, and one of the
what we
issues
settled
that what's kind of going on as well is Layton Police or Layton City had just put in however millions of dollars to build a new facility, a state-of-the-art facility. Bountiful's put a lot of money into theirs. Neither one of them wanted to walk away from that. They felt very strong about that, and they just weren't going to move. The sheriff wanted to have a single dispatch. They would have to build a new building in order to do that. So even from a cost-benefit analysis, it was best to just, let's have the 2 dispatch centers, north end, south end, call it good.
So that's a little history for you as well too, if that's helpful. Any further questions for Lisa or for the chief on this? It is a resolution. If you don't have any further questions, and did you have more? You look like you do. Okay.
I have one question for
Okay.
Lisa. Section 19, whose change is this? Is this our request or Bountiful's request? Limiting
Is this
remedies
the specific performance?
performance?
Yes, I was thinking you would ask me about this. This is mine. I've been trying to add more, because we do not have governmental immunity for contractual breach. And so, when appropriate, we've been adding this specific performance clause into our contracts, which basically just means, we will perform rather than owe any damages. But I did say to the Bountiful attorney, I'm happy to talk about it because it does create some issues in this situation, but we're both governmental entities, so I decided to leave it in. I'm happy to have any input as well if you'd like to take it back out. Because it's for both of us.
No, I didn't object to it. I just was curious as to the purpose behind it.
Okay?
So, just so you know, Bountiful is ready and willing to sign the agreement if we sign it as well.
Okay, other questions? Look for a motion then on resolution 2024-04.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 2024-04.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. Let's do a roll call vote on it, starting with Councilman Summerhouse going to the right.
Aye.
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 That motion passes unanimously. Thank you for your work on that, Chief and Lisa. And let's go now to a municipal code amendment in regards to the veterans niche wall. And Lisa, do you want to give us some background on that besides what we have in our packet?
Yes, on to the fun part of our agenda. We have some municipal code amendments. We recently installed a niche wall in the Freedom Hills Park. It's a Veterans Memorial Wall. And so we wanted to just make sure that all of our cemetery regulations regarding that new niche wall govern this, even though it's in a park. So as we were going through some of these fee amendments, I realized, you know, Title 8 is really regulating our city cemetery, and now we have something similar. So anyway, that's the first edit, is just making sure that that niche wall in Freedom Hills Park will be subject to the cemetery regulations, and anywhere else we decide to put a niche wall. The other change is a little bit more complicated, but since we were making some edits, we had recently dealt with a situation, a request to bury, I believe, an infant or some cremains in a double-depth vault, double-depth burial space, but it did not yet have anyone in it, and it didn't have the vault, and so it was very problematic. So we're recommending some changes to our municipal code just to make this clear. And initially, my recommendation was to say no infant or cremains in a double-depth vault because it's too complicated, but I think Bruce made some good suggestions and said, no, let's revise it so that we can allow some of this, because we can if they follow certain procedures, and that way we're making better use of our cemetery. But just to be clear, in a regular burial space, you can put an infant coffin in just the burial space or some cremains, whether there's already a deceased person in that space, whether or not. But in double-depth burial spaces, what we're saying is before you can do that, you have to put the vault in because of some complications with the walls and the structure of it. So what we're saying is in the bottom chamber, you can put the infant or the cremains if that's what you want to do with that space, or a casket, but not both, because unfortunately this cannot handle both a casket and then something on top. So that's the recommendation, that you can use it for any but not both, whereas a regular burial space you can use it for both. So I think we're recommending approval of these, and yeah, if Bruce would like to add more or correct me on any of my terminology or
Expert in all
facts.
things, Lisa.
Yeah, so Bruce, I think I've got so just walk us through the scenario that an infant is stillborn or dies shortly after birth. Parents want to bury them. Do they need 3 slots, or can they do 2 slots?
And also address with that, how we define an infant.
And what I'm saying is, you may have the infant, obviously, who gets buried 20, 30, 40 years prior to parents being interred. So walk us through that one more time.
Okay, so
So infant dies tomorrow,
you know,
parents are around for 40 more years,
and they have a burial space.
and they have a burial space. Because I know the instance in which we're talking about.
All
they
of the
didn't.
double-depth spaces are sold, so someone can't come and purchase one unless someone sells one back to the city. and
Correct.
one
Let's say
becomes
someone
Let's
sells
just
one.
start with the regular burial.
So regular burial space, we charge the family, they own a space, or they purchase a space, either way. We have some that are available for time of need right now. They pay for the opening and closing of that grave. So we open the grave, we hand dig we hand dig the graves for infants and for cremains, place that in that grave, and then close it. 40 years later, mom dies and would like to be in that same space with that infant. We charge the opening and closing for mom. We don't charge extra fee for exhuming that infant. We carefully exhume the infant, open that grave, and we have a number of different options. We can dig the grave a little bit deeper, put the infant down underneath the vault that will come and be on top. Sometimes I've seen where the mortuary gets involved and they'd like to take the infant and actually take the infant out of the container that it's in. It's a coffin and vault in one. It's usually a fiberglass, and they're usually about yay big, 10 inches high, 12 inches long. They can put the infant in the casket with the mom, and then put it in the casket. Casket goes in the vault. and they come to the cemetery the same as anybody else. Also, we have the option of, let's say the grandma has died. Grandma, they want, can we put infant, grandchild on top of grandma who's already there? We probe down to the top of that vault, so long as there's enough space that we can dig a hole and still have a good, 18 inches of dirt on top, we can put the infant on top of grandma's vault. We can, and we charge opening and closing fee, but they don't have to buy a space, they don't have to pay any other.
Is it the same
fees.
opening and closing fee, even though you're hand digging it?
Yeah, same opening and closing fee, and hand digging actually takes us a little more labor, a little more cost, but I've looked at this as how can we keep this as inexpensive as we can, because in most cases, it's like you say, it's a stillborn child to a young couple that don't have resources, and they're looking for a way to take care of things at the least expensive way. We do have, what comes into play on the double depth and also in this is that we have one monument, one marker allowed per space, but then in situations where we will allow a veteran's flat marker, or we will allow an infant to have a flat marker, with the understanding that that's going to be in the corridor where there's no stones, and it will be traffic over for as we move equipment in and out and mow lawns and things. But we do allow a second, with the permission of the cemetery sexton, or me, the parks director, that lets them know, hey, we can allow an extra one, so long as it has to be flat, and we have to be able to drive over that and access other grades and things. So we can put it on top, but then we also have the option of, depending on where the grave is, sometimes there's space at the end of the vault, or the other end where we can also, if it's too shallow, we still have an option there. Those options aren't available with the double depths because of the unique vault, and one casket barely fits in each of those sections, and so you don't have room, and you're not redigging that. The vaults go in the next one in line because of cave-in dangers and things. So we did have to create, and I thank Lisa for her efforts and also working with me to understand what we can and can't do. And if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer. Did that answer your questions? Okay.
So we started out with just making some edits to section 8.03.090, but then when we got into all this detail about the double depth, we just decided to start a new section on this topic with 8.03.094. So yes, I think we're covering these. We do like in these situations to be as clear as possible. It is a difficult time, and we want to be clear as well. So staff's recommending approval of this ordinance 2024-03.
And just if you haven't had a chance, Jennifer, I took a couple pictures of the new veterans niche wall, and also of the existing niche wall in our cemetery. This is the one in our cemetery. There's space there for multiple as we need them, and they're priced so that they pay for themselves. So if it sells out and fills up, we can build
How many
another
do
one.
we have used?
Not many. I think 3 in this one, and we're just now making them available for the veterans.
So Nick, I don't know if it makes you happy, that's not necessarily the right word.
Here's the one up at Freedom Hills Park, at the Veterans Memorial.
So I had a neighbor come to me, he says, I'm not gonna bug you about cemetery anymore because my wife and I decided to be cremated. And I told them about the niche wall, and they didn't know about it. So, and I said, there's plenty of spots available if you're interested in something like that. So, yeah.
It's still gaining popularity. It's very, there's a lot of cost savings to go that route. You don't have to have a vault at all. You don't have to have a casket. The one price pays for the niche and your headstone. So there's a lot of cost savings. Any other questions? Thank you, Lisa, for doing all that.
Thank you.
More for Lisa or Bruce before a motion on this? Okay, motion, someone?
I move that we approve ordinance number 2024-03, amending various provisions of CMC 8.03 cemetery regulations regarding the veterans niche wall and the internment of infant or cremains in non-double depth burial space.
Second.
Motion is second, further discussion? Let's start, do I have Councilwoman Hayman going to the right?
Aye.
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 That motion passes unanimously. Let's go, sticking with our niche theme, let's go to fee schedule amendments, niche spaces and veterans memorial niche wall fees. Bruce, Lisa?
I'm happy to start,
Lisa?
and Bruce
Good.
can add if necessary. So now that we've completed the Veterans Memorial Niche Wall, we need to adopt fees for for spaces within that niche wall. So we are amending our fee schedule by resolution. And again, to make it a little simpler, because our cemetery and burial fees chart was getting a little unruly, so we're now dividing it to cemetery and burial fees in 6.010, and then we have a new section that we're enacting just regarding the niche walls in section 6.015. So you'll see most of the changes, all the changes in the cemetery and burial is just taking the niche wall issues out and putting them into the new section 6.015. So the proposed, if you haven't read this before, we have a lengthy and comprehensive definition of resident in Centerville for qualifying to be eligible to purchase a burial space.
For the benefit of new council members, that was debated over 2 or 3 council meetings.
We had a lot of really good ideas, and we just decided to add them all. So that's how we got there.
Basically, if
Everybody
you
was
want to
happy.
be a resident, you are.
No, that's not true, but
So we just needed to also add a definition of veteran. And what is proposed, I did look at Bountiful's, they have a veteran memorial area as well. But for Centerville, the proposed definition is any person, you have to be a resident, number 1, of Centerville, and have served in the United States Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, thanks to Bruce reminding me, the Space Force, or the Coast Guard, or any component of that.
Is that 6 of them?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
That's what it should be, okay.
Yep. And you have to be released honorably. And then I also, just in case, because there's a lot of complicated definitions of veteran. So you could go to, veterans benefits and the VA definition or Social Security definition, and it gets very complicated. So that's where I just made reference to, actually, if you qualify as a veteran under this federal statute, then we'll also consider it. And a lot of that had to do with whether you had actually been in active service or not, which our definition does not require. It does not require active service. I thought, if you've served in whatever capacity, we're going to consider you a veteran. So we've added that definition. And then the other thing we struggled with, but are making the recommendation that the veteran can only purchase 1 niche space, because this really is for veterans. So, but it will hold 2 cremains. So, and the veteran has to go in first just to make sure that someone's not there, and then the veteran changes his or her mind and is not placed in the niche wall. So I think those are the highlights. I don't know, Bruce, if you...
No, and just the pricing you see there, that includes the nameplate, the marker that goes on it, the engraving of that. We set those up so that the top ones subsidize the bottom ones, and it basically pays for the cost of the niche wall.
Yes, and so it costs more to be on the top.
And that one price also includes the perpetual care fee that we will separate out, and $200 of each space goes into the perpetual care fund, and the other money goes into the general fund.
Bruce, how do we set these fees?
We looked at the cost of building a niche wall and figured out how much do we need to make on each space in order to pay for itself. So that's how we set the fees. And then, like I said, we put the bottom row, which is row D,
Yeah.
is maybe a little less desirable just because you have to crouch down a little bit to read the names versus the ones on the top row. We charge a little more for, so, and the ones in between. So we just kind of made it the bottom row ones are being subsidized a little bit by the top row ones.
We seeing this in other cities,
Yeah,
close by us?
yes, same company that's put ours in has put in several in Bountiful Cemetery, Sioux Cemetery.
Does the $200 perpetual care amount actually cover perpetual care?
Yeah, the niche wall,
That didn't sound convincing.
Generally,
Well,
perpetual
so-
care
well,
doesn't
well-
cover it in our existing, it just
Yeah.
doesn't.
I know, I'm
Well-
getting at that.
So-
So
how-
if it
That took a
doesn't,
long time.
I know, so I thought I knew the answer, but I wanted it on record. So what amount would be the right amount for a perpetual number?
3 million.
yeah, how much will it cost to take care of that in 20 years from now?
It's hard to factor that in.
Gotta have a
right,
crystal
Meaning-
ball.
down the road.
I'm just trying to get to a net present value of 0 and what are the payments going forward, or what number gets us,
Oh, so to actually get it to be perpetual, where the interest is
covering.
covering
Yes.
all the expenditures, yeah. I don't know, you have to ask Nate. Nate,
Okay.
how?
Hey, you do not need to
Fund have
answer
to
that
be
question.
before
I'm not gonna belabor the issue. I think that's just, the point is it doesn't cover it. I mean, we fund the ongoing maintenance of a cemetery out in Bayview.
If you had,
Or
I think the
subsidized.
estimates we played with, and this is going off topic just a little bit, but if we had 1.5 million in the perpetual care fund, with the rates they are now, we could survive on the interest that collects if we didn't touch that money. That's what you'd have to have banked in reserve
1.5
to
million.
live off the interest. That's when rates are really good, so maybe it's less than that, but when rates are lower, our PTIF is lower, then it's more. But anyway, 1 to 1.5 million would be your
For
base, and we're not.
cemetery maintenance?
Oh,
For
we should have
perpetual
that.
care fund and living off the interest, what's in that fund, that would cover 100% of the cost of parks maintenance of the cemetery.
Seemed like it was around 200,000 a year or something like that.
We're at 90, yeah, it's like 95, yeah, so, well, okay, more than that, 2 million we need in that fund.
So the answer is, for the benefit of the council, we will always subsidize, unless we do a perpetual care bond, where we just bond for money that we then utilize over time. But
Your on your niche walls though, your maintenance on your niche walls is much less than your
Correct.
cemetery.
Yes.
So the more perpetual care fees you gather from your niche wall, the better it helps that situation.
Okay.
Do we know what other cities who have niche walls are charging for the perpetual care?
It's about the same when we did our research.
Yeah.
This was all in the ballpark.
Yeah, there's some, our cost of our niche is very competitive.
This is not really on topic of this, but why is it, I know where the pricing came for the niche wall. How come our burial rights and the double death burial rights are not higher?
Why are they not higher?
That land is worth more than,
When we started that section, we doubled the price of what we were charging for a single death. And we do an analysis, kind of comparing with other cities and other cemeteries. It has been going up and up and up. It's up to city council to set those fees.
With regard to the definition of veteran, was there any discussion about whether to include the Utah National Guard? Or just to was there an intention behind limiting it to
They're considered
veteran?
veteran.
Because they're not,
we-
the Utah National.
Or it says, United States, because, or a reserve component thereof.
But a reserve
That's interesting.
component is only referring to the
Yeah, a
federal.
federal, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe we could say,
You want to
who
split
served
the
in the United States or,
Or Coast Guard, comma, Utah National Guard, comma, or
Okay.
a reserve component of any of thereof or something.
I'm hoping we get a veteran from the Space Force myself.
Is there
You
anything
join, and then.
statewide other than
I'm only
National Guard?
aware of the Utah Air and Army National Guard.
All of them are components of the federal, but yeah, they are.
Or are they considered branches?
Or, yeah, or a reserve component
Like if
thereof?
you're
Are
a
they-
Utah National Guard, are you part of the Army National
You are
Guard, and therefore
tied-
part of that branch
Are you?
already?
Tied to those branches indirectly,
that would
yes.
be an Army-
The state controls those people,
Okay.
but
So
the
even-
president can call in National Guard absent of the governor.
So in answer to that question, either in Utah, as
Don't
a
mind the idea.
National Guard member, you will either fall in under the Army or the Air Force definition.
I don't mind recognizing state, I think that's a great addition to that. To explicitly call it
Yeah,
out, to
it was not
recognize,
intent- yeah.
I think that's
Okay.
great.
Belts and suspenders.
We should explicitly recognize
Yes, we can add that.
in the motion.
If you,
And by adopting this, they then become available for sale. Currently, the city council has a ordinance in place that it's only available to residents at time of need. People's cremains are a little different than a person who dies, and they need to be buried within a short period of time. Someone may have had grandpa's cremains on their mantle for 50 years, and now they're thinking, hey, we need to, we're gonna move to a retirement home, and we wanna put grandpa in a niche wall or something. So it may be something that we need to address, I think there does need to be cremains, and they do need to be a veterans if it's for the veteran wall. But where this is set up to pay for itself, it might be something you could allow to be purchased in advance. Maybe not the veteran one, but the other niche walls could be opened up to someone purchasing it in advance and not having to wait for someone to die, actually.
this does allow the pre-need.
Oh, it does, okay, oh, it does
Yeah.
not, so.
So footnote 5, I know there's a lot of footnotes. Footnote 5 says that residents may purchase a maximum of 2 niche spaces on a pre-need basis and 1 on an immediate need basis. And in my opinion, that means you could buy a total of 3.
That's the way I recall it.
So once we start getting close to being sold out, we'll be looking at building another one, and putting another one in.
Any other questions? All right, this is a resolution, so we need a motion.
Yes, please, with that one change to footnote 3,
Oh, thanks, Lisa.
definition of veteran.
I move that we approve resolution number 2024-05, amending various provisions of CFS 6, cemetery fees regarding niche space and veterans memorial niche wall fees, with clarification that footnote 3 also include the Utah National Guard.
Second.
Motion and a second. All right, for discussion. Okay, let's start with Councilwoman Hurst.
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Let's move to water line easements, Stokes Stevenson Centerville Flex Project. Lisa.
So you're probably aware of the Centerville Flex project going on the west side of the city. And they need to dedicate an off-site water line easement. So we're requiring them to loop their water line in this project. And so this is sort of an anomaly requiring something off-site, but they did purchase the property from Trinity. So Trinity was sort of related in the,
So it's off-site, but it's owned fee simple by the same entity.
well, by the same entity that sold Stokes Stevenson the property.
So
So-
Stokes Stevenson doesn't own the property on which they're requesting the easement?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's off-site. So we're just recommending that you approve this easement on the now owner MDV Trinity 4 LLC property. You can see it there on the screen where that is. And Stokes Stevenson Centerville Flex Project are the parcels to the left of that. So we're just recommending approval of this, and we'll get Trinity to sign it and get it recorded so they can start constructing their water line.
Is there further questions for Lisa on that one? Doesn't sound like it.
I'll make a motion that we accept the water line easements from MDV Trinity 4 LLC in conjunction with the offsite improvements associated with the Stokes-Stevenson Centerville Flex project.
Second.
Motion is second. Councilman Plummer, you want to start a vote?
Aye.
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 That motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Let's go to CDBG grant application for ADA pedestrian ramps. This is another resolution. Bryce released. Bryce isn't here, so Lisa, are you?
Mr. Mayor, I'll just introduce it. Each year we,
Okay.
yes, each year
Lisa, take a drink of water.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
we apply for CDBG grant, CDBG funding, that's redundant, CDBG grant, but CDBG funding each year, and the last 3 years we've applied for, I think 3 years, we've applied for ADA ramps to, essentially on roads that we're already reconstructing and the ramps are needing updating because they're no longer meeting federal guidelines. So with that, we've been applying for CDBG funds to assist with replacing those ramps, and we've been successful the previous 3 years. We've applied again this year to replace 10 of those ramps for a cost of $144,000. What I'm not sure about yet is what our cost match may be, but generally we already have the money tied into a construction project, so having the cost match, we will have no issues having that match if there is one. Generally, it makes your application stronger if you have a match, but these are due, I believe, the 11th, and so we just want to just get this support from you as we submit for these funds once again this year. So, any questions on that?
One that maybe you won't be able to answer, but how many ramps do we have now within the city that are compliant or partially compliant?
I'd say 90% of them are non-compliant because they're changing the rules every year. I'm just kidding. I don't know, but they.
I know they change it all the time.
So,
It seems like you get one in and it's changed.
but ultimately, I mean, we've changed, I don't know. I mean, how many each project do we change each project? I mean, 20, 30 each project we have, we're changing out the ramp. So I think we're staying up to date ultimately with all of our projects,
Okay.
but I can't give you a
Do we
number.
have any idea how many we have in the whole city?
How many ADA ramps in the entire city? That's a great question. I think if Mark Marchant was here,
He's checking out.
let's just defer to Nate on all questions. Nate or Lisa to run the meetings going forward. No, that's a great question, but I don't know if I'm sure Mark would have the answer if he was here. Or maybe even Kevin.
Well, I guess maybe we.
I just wondered how,
It's a fun
you know,
question.
if
It's
we're
a fun
making
little
any
fact.
headway on this or not.
Mike sounds like he's going to have the answer.
I don't have the answer, I'll be honest. So the whole thing is, you get going along and then they make changes, so then it's not compliant no more, right?
Right.
So that has happened, I mean, I appreciate Mark being able to look into the jobs, the street jobs that we're doing and get them replaced, like Fourth West last year, how we got them replaced. That saves us as having to pay for them to have them done. So, I mean, to say that, I mean, it keeps moving when they change different pitches and that, different specs on the ramps and that. So, yeah, I mean, it's really a loaded question. I mean, it's hard to answer because, what ones are compliant and still work are fine, but, the ones that we're coming into, and Mark would have a better shot at that, knowing the exact, well, not exact, I think it's still a ballpark. But yeah, it's just moving forward and trying to
Yeah.
keep up with everything else. I think, we get a grant, if we get $144,000 from somebody to take care of something, it's always a good deal for the
No,
citizens.
I'm fully supportive of all that you guys are doing that way. I guess I was just wondering if we feel like we're making any headway on.
I will throw out there that they're slicker than the sidewalk, so I'm not really sure.
I was gonna say, and how, and also
And they
plowing
don't,
them.
they don't wear well, like the one over my crosswalk has little bumps on it, and the bumps are breaking off.
Yeah, when you
And
try and plow them or
so
whatever, they're.
It's just
creates almost
not,
more hazard
but
than
it's,
not.
I mean, and then I salt the heck out of it, and it's like a
Oh, we
plastic,
found the culprit, the salt.
something,
Now we know who's been.
because that is the slick spot
Right, I've heard that they are so bad with ice.
Oh, terrible. And then they have these little nubbies, and so the water holds in between them, and then it freezes, and yes, they're,
Great for
they're
Southern
not,
California.
they're not my friend. They might make me need ADU.
We're gonna get the heated ramps before long, I'm pretty sure that's coming. Amanda,
One where Robin's at, you know.
yeah, we'll get one over there.
In
I mean,
Salt Lake,
everything
they
keeps-
have some that are like,
I wouldn't be surprised, you know, at one point in time, they go away from those. I mean, that's part of what we're saying, is they keep changing, so who knows how compliant we
just
are. I know there's
fix
a lot
them-
more than,
You're just fixing them as you do road
Exactly,
projects,
right.
and that's all you can do.
yeah, and it's, you know, it's money that Centerville doesn't have to come up to replace some of them, you know. Like last year, we replaced a lot of them that was the old standard, and we were able to move forward and have something that met code for a period of time. So,
Thank you.
anything else? Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, staff recommends approval of the resolution to support the application to apply for the CDBG funds.
Thanks, Brant. Anybody have other questions for Brant? So I guess they're looking for a motion to proceed to apply for the CDBG grant.
I'll move that we approve resolution number 2024-06, supporting the ADA pedestrian ramp project and submitting an application to Davis County for 2024 CDBG program funds.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, aye?
I,
Opposed? Unanimous? Thank you. All right, let's go to item number 6. Now, this is a glass recycling discussion. Based on our last city council meeting, the one in the open session, there was a great presentation put together by a young lady, and we all got handouts, and 2 or 3 of you had said, let's entertain it further. So you have in your packet a resolution that we did sign a couple of years, almost about 2.5 years ago, where residents can purchase a glass recycling bin. Councilman Insoff had talked about how they tried to do it in their neighborhood. What we're talking about specifically here is something else that the Momentum Recycling offers is glass recycling options such as a community glass dumpster. Brant, have I butchered that, or what do you want to add to that?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. So internally, we've been having conversations for some time about where the location is and how should we proceed. And after the presentation 2 weeks ago, we really had a conversation about where that location could be. And we're still open to some input as where that location might be, whether it's here at City Hall. And, you know, I had concerns about taking up some of our parking spots because we need all of them. There's conversations maybe being at Smoo Park in the west parking lot, but maybe that's tucked away too far. There was conversation about being at Public Works Building. There's that dead-end street on the northern part of the property, which could be a location, but that's really out of the way. But I think ultimately we've come to some consensus that maybe over here on the pump house, even where the CERT trailer is, centrally located next to City Hall, but kind of off, tucked away might be a location. But maybe we pave a little bit of asphalt, so it's a little bit off of the concrete part, but maybe right back over here that it's near City Hall, it's centrally located within the city. I did reach out and I spoke to Momentum. The cost of the dumpster, these are all rough numbers until we're official, is anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 to essentially purchase, rent the dumpster, so to say, and $60 per pickup.
and so there's no getting, my concern is Bill was very big onto this, and he bought one for his neighborhood. And he said, never got more than, and I know, I try and pay attention when I'm using it, I use very little glass. And so I hate to put this money into it and have it, and so I'm glad to try it, but I want it to be a contract that we can get out of if we're,
Oh, for sure. So it's just $60 per pickup. So if it takes you 6 months to fill that thing up, you're paying $60. So really, your upfront cost is the most expensive part. But I think we give it a shot, and I think you'll discover more people will use it if it's available and we advertise.
So I was at Target on Saturday night, and I was walking out, I was like, I gotta take a picture of this. So I sent it to Jennifer. This is what the glass recycling area looks like at Target. They can't accommodate everything that people bring. I've got 2 bags of glass sitting on my landing, waiting to go somewhere. Usually it's with my sister-in-law that takes it up to Ogden somewhere.
So that's awesome. I mean,
So I
that makes me
think this
feel
is
better.
like actual real-life evidence.
Right.
And to Bill's point, I think you have, I don't know how many residents in our city are doing their little glass bins, but at a $60 pickup per month, seems like we can offset.
It's not even per month, just
Per
per
what?
Yeah,
pickup.
it's for pickup, thank you. It's for,
Yeah.
per pickup,
Per
thank you.
pickup, yeah.
Do we get the dumpster fee back if we decide to terminate it?
I would say no, but
Okay.
again,
That's
we
fine.
can
I mean, I
negotiate
just thought
that.
I'd ask.
So this includes 4 bins, so there's 4 separate, there's different types of glass, and includes locks on the dumpster and signage that go around the dumpster, so.
Awesome.
I thought that was actually a pretty good deal, and I think this is an easy way to give back and show that
And I
government listens.
appreciate our residents being interested in coming and putting forth on this. I mean, that's part of the reason I am supportive of it, is because I feel like, the resident put in enough time to, be interested.
And-
I wish we
and-
had more active residents.
And I was gonna say, she didn't come in asking for anything other than to make a suggestion that is frankly good for our landfill, and, it was a really responsible
Right,
thought that she
Actually,
had.
her second time presenting to.
yeah.
It is, she came twice.
And she did a
so
great job.
Really impressive that, she's a sophomore,
Yeah.
in high school.
Yep,
is thinking
and that she
way.
cares and that she's willing to, I wish we had more residents that were willing to do that, so.
And I
I'm glad to
recommend-
support it for her reasons.
That we have, if Haley can help, we have a little bit of a grand opening and have her come out and just
Oh, I love that
recognize that.
idea.
So when we'll post it, is that something you can help with, Haley?
I have a
I think it'd be
question.
fun, like, if it was, it's one of our youth in our city, so maybe even a youth council recognition kind of thing, I don't know.
Sure.
Just out of curiosity, since it's not a monthly pickup, it's per pickup, and that could vary in time for when the dumpster fills up, do we just give them a call and say, hey, we're ready for a pickup, and they just come whenever we're ready?
Yep, Public Works will be in charge of that.
In their spare time.
Or park, since it's in our park.
Part of the sanitation, going into the sanitation
Yeah,
budget item.
Put in the cemetery where you take your glass to die.
So is there any other thoughts where this location could be?
I like the location, the central
Yeah.
location here. If you put it out at Public Works,
Yeah.
I understand why you'd put it Public Works, but that becomes inaccessible.
Yeah, and it's not
And
convenient.
nobody will utilize it. Smoot Park is kind of tucked away and not maybe as convenient. I think people's daily coming, my other suggestion is you work with a community partner, Dick's Market,
That's what I was just
Walmart,
gonna
Target,
say
and
that-
see if they'd license us one area, like an area outside in, a corner of their parking lot, and just let us put one there as a community partner.
I kind of like it being on a city facility, to be honest with you.
I understand that, but I also.
Just
you
we're
know,
managing it and we're responsible
Yeah.
for it.
So,
But anyway, that is a thought. We could consider that.
but I do like the
But-
idea here. 'cause
But the
it's-
grocery stores made sense because that's where you're going and you're buying glass products. I guess I'm going back to when I was a kid and you would actually take your glass into the grocery store,
I like the
So-
grocery
You'd-
store
you'd
parking
get a
lot
discount
idea.
on your next glass bottle of
Right.
soda.
You got, and
This when milk was delivered to your door?
Yeah, Winder Dairy.
but I do like that idea.
You can still have that done,
And a grocery store might be willing to do it because it's gonna bring
much does
people
that
into their
gallon of milk
parking lot.
cost?
Grocery store might what?
Be willing to do it because it's gonna
Actually,
bring
inside
people
joke
into
from
their
our first budget
parking
meeting
lot
when
spot.
George
So if they only get 1 or 2 customers from it, would be worth their while to give us a spot to put it.
I don't want to belabor like the time period for it. I don't want to spend 2 months trying to identify where to go, identifying a community partner. I'd like to move more quickly. That would be my personal opinion.
The location that you planned over here, is that already under camera surveillance?
Oh, no. It will be.
Yes.
Oh, wait, it is. Well, yeah, so with options, it might be.
Maybe,
We are working on that.
could be.
So I think it'd be nice to have it. There's Ally just showed up now.
We
Um,
just,
We should give her
you
a
just
sum
missed
up.
us all talking about you. what a great job you did and how much we appreciated it.
Make a motion?
Do we need to make a motion?
Probably just a recommendation, it looks like.
Well, it's an item, you can make a motion on it if you like to and give support, but if you want to repeat some of the things you said while she's here, I think that'd be great in terms of, you have our full support, and we are going to move forward with getting a drop-off location. Tentatively, it'll be here at City Hall, we'll have it over there by the pump house, and, but we've reached out to Momentum, and we'll start that process soon. So we really appreciate you participating in the process and making a recommendation, and being diligent and passionate and dedicated to your cause.
We need more residents like you.
Yes, you missed all of the compliments you were
You
receiving.
can watch it on YouTube later. You can watch YouTube later. But a motion would be great if you want to make it official that you fully support this and pursuing this option.
I'll make a motion that the city move forward with a recycling program with Momentum Glass, that we purchase a container that will be placed out by the CERT trailer in the well, and that we have the pickups as needed.
I'll second that.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, you made a difference. Remember that.
Good job, Ally.
Thanks for bringing all the friends last time, too. It gave us a population for our meetings. We thought we might have to
We
start
get
charging.
paid by the amount of people that come, so you.
Yeah, we thought we might have to start charging ticket price, but we didn't have it this week, so. But thank you for your participation. Any other questions? Come up here so we can hear you.
I don't have any questions, but I did actually start a GoFundMe, so if you guys, like, to help pay for, like, the initial fees and stuff, so I'll reach out and figure out how to send that over to you guys.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Wow.
Awesome.
You are really awesome.
Thank you.
I need a new salesman at my CPA firm here.
Her mom's gonna make her finish high school first.
Thanks so much.
It's like low on my list right now.
Okay, the next one is, and I thought this was quite timely when Brent and I were going over the agenda, a discussion about what our role is as council liaisons. We have Lisa to talk about it, and Bruce and Bryce. I just am going to, and I thought it's really good because we probably all have different feelings of what we should be doing. When we went through that appointment list 2 weeks ago, and you approved the recommendations I made as for council liaisons, in my mind, I've always felt that on those committees, you do have a staff representative there, and then you have a committee chair, and usually vice chair as well too. So we're trying to give the residents a chance, to run that committee with help from staff and the liaison. But I think where I've always pictured the city council person or myself, their responsibility is just kind of directing them of what they can and can't do as far as what we know, as far as the rules, and giving them a feel of, what our ordinances are like in relation to that. And if we don't know, we get back to them. Just kind of give them direction and maybe a feel of discussions that we've had related to that area that you're in work sessions or council. So that's kind of what I've seen. That's not a great description, but what was the inputs from all of you as far as what it means to be a council liaison to the
And Mayor,
boards
just for
and committees?
context, this is related to city
This is
liaisons,
just related.
not
City
like
committee.
sewer board or.
No,
rec board.
Parks and Rec, Tree
Thank you.
Board,
Yeah.
Whitaker,
Okay.
nothing.
I just want to make sure we understood the
Nothing what to
context.
do with mosquito abatement
Yeah.
or rec district or sewer or, the outside boards. Yeah.
So on
That's it.
those, you're actually a board member.
Correct.
But I will say that I recently had a question from one of our newer council members.
You're welcome.
What her role should be in this. And I just thought it was a really great question and that we should all discuss. Because I thought, well, our code doesn't give us a lot of direction. But essentially, I think we started doing these liaisons to the committees so that the council had more connection with what our committees are doing. And then you can also bring back some information, and that's why we do the rotating discussion of here's what, the committee that I'm on, here's what they're doing. But it is not a voting member, and I guess in my mind, I think it is more just sort of listening and weighing in on things, but not really, because you're just one member of the council. So it's not really, directing specific direction for the committee. All our committees are advisory, so we're just looking for, advice back to the council. But I think it's actually been quite successful. I think our committees appreciate that support. But I just, honestly, I don't know how much each council member speaks in those committee meetings. And that's why I kind of put Bruce on here too, because he attends a lot of these meetings. But just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page and doing a similar roles and responsibilities in those meetings.
So let me ask those that, for the benefit of our two new council members, in the years that the three of you have been liaisons, what have you done? What have you found as effective in
Well,
being a
one thing,
liaison?
when I was first put on, within the first couple of years, we had some different problems, and I think as council members, we didn't really understand. We were going and we were getting gung-ho and excited with these committees. I got called in a couple of times to the principal's office because I'm like, yes, we'll do that, And the other thing was, then we had some feelings with committee members. I think it's important that we make them recognize that they are here as an advisory form, because they would come up with a plan and then they were really mad that city council didn't run with it. And they're like, we put all this work together, why did we even bother? So, no, you're here to give us great ideas, you're here to help us implement those ideas, but they need to understand that they're not an arm of the city council, they don't make decisions. And we had some that felt like if it was voted on in Parks and Committee, then it was a done deal. And no, they were just agreeing to bring it to the council. So there were some feelings, and I feel like it's gone way better since then. There was a couple of years, there were some feelings and some problems, and since then I feel like it's turned clear around and it's turned out great. Once we realized kind of more our role, and they realized, that they're an advisory committee rather than a board that we said make this decision for us, it really helped the feelings of. So I think we need to be careful and make sure that they understand that this is great to bring to our council, but we have to look at budget and, other safety issues and things, as opposed to, sometimes they don't have to worry about that. They can just come up with a great idea.
But we don't want to kill their enthusiasm.
No, and that's what I said. We want their
If Parks and
advisors.
Rec comes up with an idea, since we mentioned that, of, hey, let's spend $400,000, yeah, we have to tell them, whoa, wait,
Right.
that's got, but if they come up with an idea of, just because they already have this, hey, we're gonna do movies in the park on a Friday night, then they need to feel that they have the ability to do that, and you could say as a liaison, yeah, I'm gonna report that in the next meeting, and I'm sure that's gonna,
Right.
something like that.
And that's kind of where it was a fine line, and I feel like we crossed that fine line to where we're in a really good area now.
I would just add that I think it's a matter of managing expectations and communicating, hey, this is the temperature of the council. I'm one member of the council, and based off of my observations, here's what you may or may not get approved from an advisory committee standpoint, so that at least they have an expectation that not everything that they're going to come up with is going to be approved, or at least tempers it so that they can use their time wisely as they sit on a committee and come up with ideas. Because you can say, look, we're trying to think about staffing right now. But how do we even think about staffing or a drainage project when you may want X, Y, and Z, and maybe think through those things. I think it's also, Mayor's been good about recommending, none of them have been maybe on a committee before, so it maybe is a lot more ad hoc. And so you can say, hey, in our regular council meetings, when you're public facing, and this is a public meeting, it gets recorded, this is the way you do a motion, and, you know, it's a small way where you can help training and things like that. That's my observation, Mayor. And then like, for example, if you have certain expertise that you could help a committee with, by all means, do it. Like the Trails Committee, I got involved with they had an established relationship with the landowner, and I just volunteered my help, and it just translated into my council role where it was appropriate and helped facilitate a purchase. But that was kind of within my skill set.
And after
with
consulting
staff's,
the attorney.
correct, with staff's consultation. That's exactly right.
Don't want you going off and.
Yeah, don't go off
property
doing,
rights.
don't go rogue. Yeah,
There are some
exactly.
noticing requirements.
I think as appropriate, Spencer was completely transparent about all of that. And
Oh, yeah.
because of that, we were able to get a really great little piece of property that,
And that's what he said, but it was great, you know.
But the committee members felt supported.
Right.
And I think that's what you want in these committees, that they're volunteer, and they're giving their time.
And we really do need their
And they're
advice.
passionate, typically on the committees, they're passionate, because they've asked to be on those. And we want to support that enthusiasm, kind of like what we did tonight. It made sense to support Ally, but it's also great to support at the same time.
Good. So thank you for bringing that up, and that was helpful.
And your committees may come up with a great idea, and some of those committee members have more time than others to be involved. I remember early on, a committee member on the Parks and Rec, and he was the chair of the Parks and Rec for the longest time, and he actually researched and went and found out about grants and everything else, and came to us, hey, this is what we want to do, and here's some solutions.
Yeah.
I will
Amazing.
say that coming up with our general plan update, these committees are going to be potentially important, because,
right,
you know, for example, Shailene, if you're on Whitaker Museum, you may be having them focus, hey, what are some historical aspects about our city that we may want to incorporate, whether in narrative form, in pictorial form, that we want to include, or parks or trails. Like trails, I've already said, hey, we're going to be redoing the general plan, and trails will become a component of that. Start thinking about what that looks like. And we had Corey come in and did a little presentation about some tasks that they would have to do at the right time. But it gets them thinking about engaging in that process. So you already have not just council buy-in, but you have some of these, our citizen communities starting to help us with the general plan.
and the same suggestion was given to the Parks Committee as well, because those components tie into the general plan. So we are going to need their help.
And I appreciate what each of you do there. Lisa can't be at every meeting in the legal spot. And I try and pop in from time to time. I've had a goal to pop in at least once a year just to say hi. And then I leave because, you know, you guys do a great job. But I appreciate each one of you taking that responsibility on as liaison and for staff. Bruce and others that chair, not chair, but they're the staff representatives, for all that you do there, so thanks. Any other comments on that before we move on?
Just one comment on, it seems like in the municipal code, it has Landmarks Commission and Whitaker Museum Board separate. Is there thought that that will be combined? Does that need to be changed?
There's been some discussion, but no decision.
Yeah, so that's
tricky.
something that our land.
You feel like it's tricky, Lisa?
With personalities and.
Oh, okay.
Depends how we want to approach it, but it's definitely possible.
We've talked about it before, where I thought it made sense, like even when Whitaker Committee came and presented to us a year plus ago, we talked about it openly with them, and they seemed supportive.
The Whitaker isn't really big on it.
Oh, that committee, I felt like was.
It's shifted, and
Has
so
it?
we're working with Bryce,
Oh,
who's the
okay.
liaison,
And
and with
so,
Haley
you
to
know,
determine how to proceed with that, because ultimately, Landmarks Commission, you're required to have a committee to apply for CLG funds through the state, and Landmarks Commission is that historical committee. The beneficiary of those funds has always been Whitaker.
Right.
And really, that's the only reason why you have one of those. Landmarks has been.
And we haven't been active for over
So-
a year. We
so it
haven't had a landmark.
Would not be difficult for Whitaker to absorb those responsibilities, to essentially apply for and receive the funds that they've been getting. And it could reduce the number of volunteers we need to get them in more active committees, so they're not just idle.
So do we have, by statute though, would we have to designate it as the landmarks committee?
Yeah, it's referenced in our zoning code.
Yeah, you don't have to call it landmarks. So other cities call it the historical committee, or they call it the design review, the historical design review, or whatever it might be. There's all sorts of, it doesn't matter what you call it. We've called ours landmarks. But if you want that as a future work session agenda item, we can have that conversation.
I've reached out to Robin and talked to her further because she's the chair of the Landmarks Commission. Shaylin's new with the Whitaker, but yeah, what you're bringing up is very viable, like what Bruce said, or Brant, sorry, too many B's, Bruce, Bryce, Brant. We have to have one that's to approve. We haven't had one of those approvals in a long time though, have we? That we've had to do?
No, I think that's been some of the challenges in the past. We're getting off topic a little bit, but Landmarks Commission has approved some historical landmarks in the city that the council actually didn't see. And it went through so again, it wasn't an advisory of council. We recommend this being a
They went ahead and did
historical
it
landmark.
themselves.
And it was approved historical landmark without council being notified and being a participant. And that's concerning a little bit, but we've worked through some of that.
All right, as far as liaison,
Can I ask
other
one more
comments?
question? On the audit committee, do we have an independent member that's on the audit committee? Seems like when I read the municipal code, it said we needed an independent.
So
It's
currently Marcus
Marcus
is
right
that
now.
independent member,
Oh,
and his term
okay.
expires in May. We're gonna
Okay.
need to replace him as well.
Okay.
So since Marcus, it's fortunate because he's kind of independent because he's the one who assists with our books, but he's also a resident of Centerville. But Marcus has been a huge help on that
Okay,
committee.
that's perfect. I just wanted to make sure we were complying with that if we weren't. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to the minute approval of January 4th, special city council minutes, January 16th work session, January 16th city council, and January 23rd special city council minutes. In looking over those minutes, are there any changes to those minutes? If not, a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Speaking of committees, speaking of audit committee, okay, how does it feel, Councilwoman Meekum, to be put in here just with all our other volunteer committee people? So we have Councilmember Robin Meekum to the audit committee, because Councilmember Bill Entz is not a council member any longer. Aaron Getz to the Parks and Recreation Committee, and Brooke Lewis to the Parks and Recreation Committee. I sent you volunteer forms. Robin give me hers, so I can.
City council members are so insubordinate sometimes.
So those are the in fairness to her, I didn't ask her to give me one. So those are the appointments that I'm looking for approval on.
Do you want us to make a motion or
Yes.
approve
Can we
it?
make- motion, sorry.
I would be most proud to make a recommendation for all three of those people to serve as indicated.
Second.
All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great, thank you.
You didn't say nay.
Give me.
All right,
halfway
Nate,
to the first one.
so this time around, it is one of our quarter ends. We're at a 6 month, halfway through our year. get used to this. We're not on calendar years here, we're June years in government. So Nate will be reporting on our December statements, which, as he sends out to you, he highlights certain areas and he'll talk to us about more. So Nate, take it away.
Awesome, thank you, Mayor. As Mayor mentioned, this is for, as of December, since I was gone the last meeting. So we're a little bit behind, but we're getting there. So to start out, if we go to the next page, yeah, this is our cash fund, or cash position by fund sheet. You can see the general fund jumped up pretty significantly, and that is due to us receiving about 1.6 million from property tax revenue. Property taxes are due in November, so we normally collect it, the majority of it, in December and this time of year. The other things I wanted to point out here is that the rec fund balance is back in the negative. Again, state law requires us that we be positive in cash by the end of the year. And we're scheduled to have a work session on this next meeting. So we'll address it, we'll go deeper into it. But yeah, we'll make sure we get it corrected by the end of the year, one way or another. And then the last thing I wanted to point out here is just our interest rate there on the right. It's at 5.4%. We just had a slight decrease from last month, but it's the first time since September of 2021 that it's decreased at all. And I think that's a sign of interest rates kind of steadying out. I know the Feds in January elected not to raise or lower interest rates, they just kept them the same. So I think it'll kind of steady out for a little bit. Going on to the 2 pages down.
Nate, just as a refresher, general fund balance was decreased because of our transfer over the capital projects, correct? That was our big transfer that happened.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you're looking at, what is that, September?
September, October.
Yeah,
month
we
over.
had, because we had to bring our general fund balance to the 30%.
30%.
So we transferred the rest. It was 3.6 million, if I remember right.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what that change was. Okay. Here, this is a look at the general fund revenues. As I mentioned, we collected about 1.6 million in property taxes in December. Sales tax, we are at about 2.8 million year to date, which is right on track.
Before you move on from property taxes, Nate, that comes, what's the biggest month that we receive that in?
Generally December.
And then it pretty much ends by February, March?
Yeah, it definitely decreases significantly. So I'm trying to remember what we got for January. I think in January we got another 200,000 to 300,000.
Just so that we know when we're looking at these financials that you're not being shocked when you don't see property taxes in there in May or something, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it's pretty low through those summer months. Yeah, like I said, they're due in November, so that's, and we get it a month after the county receives it. So December is generally our biggest, that's when we see the biggest inflow. And then January is also semi-large, and then it kind of trickles down from there.
thank you.
So yeah, sales tax, we're at 2.8 million year to date. That's right on track to hit our budgeted amount. It is slightly less than what we had received last year, just by about 15,000. So not too much different, but we are right on track to hit our budget. I remember a couple meetings ago, franchise taxes got brought up. So I wanted to point out that the natural gas tax, right now, as of December, we only show 86,000. But just last week, we received a check for 51,000. So that's not reflected in this financials, but just showing that over these winter months, when people are running their heaters, we do collect significantly more. So through 6 months, we'd only received 86,000. Just this last month alone, we received over 51,000. And then, let's see. Total revenues, we're at 7.2 million, so 57% of our budget. And our total revenues are just slightly higher than at this point last year. Moving on to expenditures, for the most part, most departments are, below that 50% mark. There are some of those underlined that you see that are above it, but not a ton of those are, none of them are a large dollar amount. So our total expenditures year-to-date are 6.1 million, which is, again, at 48%. So we're below where we need to be this time of year. And that gives us our net income of just over $1 million. RDA, just wanted to note that we generally receive our tax increment in the springtime. So that's why our revenues are pretty low at the moment. But we'll be receiving that in the spring. I touched on our rec fund earlier. We're showing a net loss right now of about $9,000. And again, we'll get into this deeper next week. A lot of it has to do with timing of things. So like you can see, in December, we spent just over $1,000 on baseball, but we don't start collecting sign-up fees until end of January. Right now, it's open right now.
Nate, I have one question on what you just went over, and that's the engineering. It was 146%. Is there, did we do something?
Generally, that's tied to revenues, so we're not overly concerned because generally it's fees we collect that's passed through that's paid for by the developer. So it just depends on how busy we are, but we collect those fees.
Okay.
So not all of that is related to fees, but the majority of it is. Yep. Good question. Let's see, RAP tax. This is what I found interesting is that, so RAP tax is, collected through sales tax. It's tacked onto our sales tax. We are just slightly above where we were at this point last year. So year to date, we've received 298,000. Last year, we were at 293. So that means businesses in Centerville are doing just slightly better than they were last year, despite us having overall sales tax lower than where we were last year. So what does that mean? I'm guessing that means it's good for business in Centerville and that we're receiving less of a distribution from the state. But we like to see those Centerville businesses doing well. Again, for the new council members that maybe haven't gone over this, we collect RAP tax. That's for recreation, arts, and parks. So the current model that we have our distribution set up is that 85% of it goes to our parks improvement fund, 5% goes to the Whitaker, and 5% goes to the Centerpoint Theater building. With the remaining 5% we keep in this RAP tax fund to be used for future projects.
Is the RAP tax something that was passed by Davis County?
No, it's passed by the city.
It's the city, only the city.
Mm-hmm.
Does it go forever, or is it only?
No, it's good for 10 years, so ours is coming up due in 2026, I believe it expires.
The first time, we're on the second time that we've had, the first 10 years was 90% or 95% went to Centerpoint. So at that time, we kind of agreed that in order to get Centerpoint up and going, we gave all of them. And then after that 10 years, it was voted back in. But we let it be known that it would be going to the parks.
Got it.
Because they had got on their feet. But that's where it started, was for Centerpoint.
I know Salt Lake City's is coming up due. They're going to be re-voting on it, so I was just curious how long ours goes.
Yeah, it's on our radar, so I think next calendar year we'll have to put it back on the ballot and ask for voter approval if we would like to renew that RAP tax. Looking at the Parks Fund, there hasn't been a lot of spent out of that, as most of those projects, such as the pickleball course that we discussed earlier, are hopefully going to start in the spring. Going to the next page, our capital projects fund, we're well under budget at this point. so no concerns there. Transportation fund, you can see our revenues are at 48%, so they're pretty close to being on track. The expenses are a little bit over budget, and the reason you're seeing that net loss is, again, just due to the timing of how this fund works. So if you think about our summer construction season, we dig up the road, put in the water line, this is the storm drain, and then in the fall, so at the beginning of our fiscal year is when we pave the road and have a lot of those expenses coming out of our transportation fund. So that's why we see heavy expenses at the beginning of our fiscal year. And then you hope to build that, we catch up on the revenues as time goes on. The Utopia, again, I just have that note that we receive a rebate from Utopia, or a distribution. We generally receive that in the spring. Last year it was June, but hopefully we'll get it in the spring this year. And then looking at the water fund, we're slightly above revenue. Our revenues are slightly above budget, and our expenditures are slightly below budget. So we're in okay shape there. And then jumping down to our drainage fund, again, we're at a slight net loss right now, and hoping we catch back up over these winter months. We don't have a lot of construction going on. So that's all I have prepared for you tonight. Are there any questions?
No specific questions?
Thank you, though.
I appreciate the little call outs. Those are very helpful for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna hear a lot from Nate in a little bit. So, we'll be looking forward to that. All right, let's go to, council report. This, session's turn, it's Council Member Hayman. Any council report for us?
No, this is going to be very short because my first Whitaker meeting was canceled. So I'm looking forward to being a part of that board, and I go to my first mosquito abatement committee meeting on Thursday. So I'm happy, I will be excited to report back all of the state of mosquitoes after Thursday.
And I told her that the executive director or president, whatever, at the mosquito board is a Centerville resident, Gary Hatch, and I think I gave you his number too, didn't I? But so she's sounds like she's excited about it. So
How can you not be excited about mosquitoes? Come on.
What we're excited about is that we have lots of control that helps with the mosquitoes.
As a council request, it hasn't been fulfilled, but we've asked for I know that Lisa Summers has represented that she kind of keeps a track of events that go on at Whitaker and how many visitors are coming in, but I haven't seen one of those. I don't know if I've missed it. I don't think I have, but can you ask her to provide that to council?
The number of visitors.
Haley can help with that as well.
Yeah, like it's kind of a summary. She's got like a one-page sheet of events that occurred, and
I think she just brings it once a year.
I know
ask.
we've asked her to bring it more regularly.
Are you looking for just how many people are coming?
It's just
weekly,
kind of it's just kind of a
monthly,
quarterly
yearly?
update report of activities that have gone on, number of visitors, improvements that are ongoing.
Okay, I'll find out. I'll bring back a report.
anybody else have anything pressing with their committees we should know about? Okay.
Mayor, I don't think anybody's got any feedback on figure skating from the rec center, but the intent is hopefully to get figure skating back on the ice next Tuesday. We meet Monday, so after our little pause button hit, so we could get new rules and regulations in place.
Thank you, though, for that. I do appreciate it. And just good knowledge for us to all know, so thanks. Okay, mayor report. Let's see, since last council meeting, what I'll report on is, Center Point Theater had a board meeting. We barely had a quorum there, so we meet once every couple of months. I guess we kind of went over some of the finance part of it. I'd had a flat tire, so I was late for that part of it, unfortunately, but Tammy Fillmore filled me in on that. And then a lot of what we talked about was similar to when he came and presented to us at our RDA meeting. I do want to bring up to you, did anybody receive invitations to their legislative night on Thursday?
Is that this Thursday?
Yeah, because Danny told me that they expanded it outside of the legislatures to councils as well, too.
We've always gone to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Went to it. I think I remember going to it
Yeah.
last year. I couldn't make it this year.
I think I went it last year too. I'm not able to go tomorrow, but.
Thursday.
No invite on that? I don't think I got one.
It was in our, we got an email on it.
I think I got it.
Okay, they may not have, did you get one?
I didn't see it.
So they probably don't have your
Maybe they
emails
don't
yet.
have your
That's why I
email.
wanted to bring it up, to let you know
What
that
time's it at?
They do like a little.
you're invited. It's
Like at 6,
6:15.
but I think you had to let them know on dinner
Thursday night.
Yeah.
by the
By
2nd.
mosquito abatement.
And if you want tickets, you just call the box office and get them for Thursday night.
I have a conflict because I've got my mosquito abatement committee, but I appreciate you for putting that on my radar.
Yeah. So, next thing, I don't know if this is gonna come up with any of you, but I'm gonna, bring it up because it's been quite, heated over the last month. I don't know if heated's the right word, but, more intense than it usually is with the Wasatch Integrated Waste Management. In November, the board passed, recycling and blue cans for, we already have it in our city. We have one of the highest, if not, I think we're like second highest participation rate of any city. But the board did pass a resolution that the district could mandate basically recycling with the blue cans, okay? Throughout the county. There's been some pushback from one of our cities, and so we'll be voting tomorrow night so whether we want to rescind that resolution. I don't think that they'll rescind the resolution because it passed 17-1. I was not at that meeting. That's when I was out of town, something I'd had planned for a year and a half. But so that's kind of been a thing that's been discussed. The district did go through where they invited all the mayors and city managers up to see the recycling program. The district spent a lot of money. They did a bond a few years ago on their materials recovery facility, MRF is what they call it. And with the investment in that, they have the recycling capabilities. Fortunately, I think I reported a year or so ago that the demand for recycled items is not as great as it used to be, but we did spend that money on that, and we need to preserve our landfill, and so if we can keep that stuff out of landfill, I think.
So is our recycling trucks taking it up there now? Because they were taking it to Salt Lake.
I don't know exactly where they're taking it. I don't know if Mike, they have the facility to take it and actually sort it. I don't know actually where ACE is taking it. I mean, that's up to their discretion where they want.
Yeah.
But if this goes through, then it will force every resident in Centerville to have a blue can, is that correct?
That's correct.
So the people that don't have it will be forced to have
But
it.
again, the challenge will be, for us, where we're frustrated as city managers, is that it's a district-forced mandate, but we're the ones billing for it, and so therefore we're providing the customer service for a district district service, which is where we're frustrated, saying, well, wait a minute, now we're now responsible for your project. And that's where it's like, look, if you want to do this, do it at your level. You manage it, you deal with the calls, because we're getting already so many calls about the mixing and dropping our recycled bins just at the landfill because somebody contaminated. My concern would be, if you're forcing someone to recycle, they're not going to take as much care into making sure they don't contaminate the load. Because once that load is contaminated with the wrong pizza box, they have to dump the whole thing in a landfill. So if people aren't invested in it and you're forcing it, I think it's a recipe for disaster.
I agree, I totally agree with that.
Not saying that it's not right.
Right.
I think it's absolutely the right way to go, but
You have to
district
have
has to get a lot more involved and engaged in the education side and manage that instead of putting this burden on us cities. And Mayor and I have talked about this, so I'm not sharing anything I haven't shared with him or with Nathan Rich, so.
Then the next thing is LPC. I'm going to engage Councilwoman Hurst and Brent here to help me out. Lisa's actually LPC too. It's not a voting member. So Legislative Policy Committee. It's the league's acronym. The league is the Utah League of City and Towns. The league's acronym for they get together LPC committee with voting members from each city and town around the state to weigh in on bills, the position we're taking on bills of cities and towns, and they call on us to approve those stances that we take on those bills. So a week ago it was discussed. We got a shout out from Cameron Dill and the league that we met with Representative Ward and gave some pushback on that bill as well as was bountiful and bountiful and we did that night, and we had some follow up as well too. And so obviously the league was opposed to that bill. So that's one that's it's. I don't even think that that isn't even out of committee, is it?
No, and they're opposing it. There's two other bills that have various components, all for affordable housing. They also had last week somebody that works, I can't remember his name, do you remember, Mayor? The one that works in the governor's office. He came and spoke about a plan that they have, which is not a bill, but I think it's one of the better options I've heard so far as still allowing cities to kind of control where they put their, more affordable housing. But yeah, I don't know that Representative Ward's bill is gonna make it through. It
says it's in committee
okay.
as of 7.
I guess I should say, I don't know that Utah League is supporting it. Didn't sound like anyone was for that. And in fact, some of the towns like Saratoga Springs and, kind of down south where they could have 1,000 homes go in, they were really concerned about that. Obviously, we have a lot less space where they can come and do that. Not that I'm not a proponent for finding some solutions. I just don't think that's like a hammer. It just does not work for every city, is my opinion.
It's a one-size-fits-all approach.
Yeah. They also talked about a water bill, it's a House Bill 280. Last week or the week before, I have some real concerns about the water infrastructure fund. As a city, I think we're trying to be proactive in saving and setting aside money for our water fund, and a city who's not doing as much, they'll create this water infrastructure fee. It'll be similar to the transportation fee. Am I saying that right? Yeah. This is the thing for me. Roads we all use, like we all drive through different cities and we use the roads, but the water system in my mind is a little different. And
Very different.
It penalizes, we'll all be paying this fee, and it'll penalize those who are trying to be responsible and benefit those who decide not to budget appropriately.
The water provider will be forced to have a fee on each meter. Let's say it's $4, and that goes to the state, who then
Yes.
determines how to distribute those funds.
Yeah. So I'm really concerned about that one. I don't think that one seems quite right. I think cities need to be responsible to take care of their infrastructure. And we should probably be making, if we're gonna charge that $4 a month, it should come back to Centerville, in my
Right.
opinion.
Brad, you have anything to add on the?
Just a positive movement on House Bill 367. That's the one that allows the transportation utility fee. That's a promising bill. The one kind of concern they have is if the state is going to allow this, because initially the state or legislators were considering, some were considering not allowing the transportation utility fee. But Representative Pat Peterson has come out with this bill. But the concern is from the state level, the state legislatures is like, we're going to allow you to do this fee, but we don't want this bleeding into allowing you to develop other fees like a public safety fee, a broadband fee, other fees. So they're almost trying to say, yes, you can do this, but you can't do these other things. And so they're putting that little caveat in there. But again, many of us don't charge that fee. Some cities do, like a Providence, where they're trying to get grandfathered in. Look, we're charging this fee already. Don't take it away from us. If we're already doing it, don't take it away. So there's still some negotiations there. Another bill, and I don't have the bill number off the top of my head, is just requiring a public hearing. This is for Nate and Lisa also be aware of that. Anytime there's a change in compensation for elected or appointed officials, there's a requirement to bring that forward, and it's got to be a separate public hearing, separate from your budget, separate from all other compensation. It can't just be the range.
Almost like a truth in taxation hearing concept?
Essentially. So there's, we know what city it's originating from. There's just a disgruntled, frustrated former mayor who has new mayor is getting a bump in pay because they elected to give them, and they really are attacking their own city. And now we're all kind of dealing with this bill. It's really frustrating. So, I mean, we question it. The question would be if you give your treasurer a $25 gift card recognizing their good work, do you have to have a public hearing for that $25 gift card? Because it says compensation, not salary. Talking about any compensation.
Any?
Requires a public hearing for any elected or appointed officer of the city. So really frustrated with that bill.
I thought that's worse than the IRS,
Yeah.
but.
Your people. So ultimately, there'll be, I think they've said that there's going to be a number of action alerts that are going to be upcoming, maybe this week. And so for the council just to be ready to contact, call, email, text our representative. Because I think Councilmember Hurst and the mayor do an excellent job. But we might need some help from you and maybe even some help from residents. Sometimes residents saying, hey, look, I was notified of this bill and I'm not happy about it either.
And if you recall, well, the last couple of years, in that last week of the session, I think I texted out to all of you, if you, on a couple of bills of, hey, get out there, so we'll reach out to you as well too, so on things, but, so thank you, Brent, for that, and Councilwoman Hurst for that, the backup and help as well. All right, any questions for me? That's all I have. Okay, city manager report. Brad, your chance to wave to your kids if they're tuned in now.
Oh, they're not asleep. Their bedtime changed a few months ago. It's now like 9:30. What happened there? They might be awake. So just a few items. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Update on the tank, the funding for the tank. We have reviewed the SF 424s and the back and forth between Mike, Kevin, and Nate's involvement with the EPA. SF 424s are really a pain where they give direction on what we need, and we're almost complete, but our intent is to bid in the fall. That's right? Yeah, bid in the fall. So we are still moving forward. Everything looks good. It's just we got to finalize the application.
So bid in the fall, start construction.
The following spring.
Okay.
So again, that's a $1.5 million grant from the EPA with a match of $375,000 is what our application is. We have a feeling our cost is going to be a little bit higher than that. And that does not include the cost of the land to purchase where the tank is going.
Do they allow you to count that as part of the in-kind?
We haven't made the argument, but I don't see why. Generally, you can, but again, we're going to far exceed the 1.5.
Yeah, I was going to say, you should be fine, but.
We had the pickleball court update already. Community park, I do want to make note, I know you've had it in your updates, but the spring cleanup, if you can help us get the word out there as well, March 23rd to March 30th, they'll be at Community Park. On the 2 Saturdays, the 23rd and the 30th, it'll be 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. During the week, with the exclusion of Sunday, will be 4 to 7 during the weekday. So
So,
March
Could I
25th.
bring up one thing on that? Last year, we had to push that out because the weather was still so bad. Do we not have that concern at all this year?
It's not the concern, really, we're trying not to bump into baseball. That's really, this is the last week before baseball. So is it a concern? I mean, I hoped it would be a concern, but I don't think it's gonna be a concern this year.
Okay, so you got the 23rd to the 30th,
23rd to the 30th.
and we'll get that advertised well, but people will ask each one of us as well too. But at least I get asked times on it, so, okay, thanks.
You're welcome. And then, just a note, Mayor had made note that the caucus meeting on March 5th, Tuesday, March 5th, so if you're okay, we're gonna reschedule the city council meeting to March 6th to allow those who would wish to participate in the caucus meetings to do that. Any concerns there? That's all I have, unless there's questions for me. Okay.
Thank you. All right, unless there's no further questions, I would entertain a motion to leave council, to go to a closed session, to not return to council for the reasons so stated on your agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Do you want a more detailed?
You want
version?
us to actually explicitly state it?
Pending or reasonably
There we
imminent
go.
litigation.
Yeah, okay. so-
All right. I move that we go into closed sessions for reasons allowed by law, including but not limited to the provisions of Utah Code Section 52-4-205, the Open Public Meetings Act, and for attorney-client matters that are privileged pursuant to Utah Code Section 78B-1-137.
You made Lisa.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
I know, I was gonna say, that just rolled off so easily
So
for you.
easily.
Well, I just
Well
read
done.
it.
I
Yeah.
Yeah,
trip all
know.
over
It
that,
just-
if I have to say.
That was fantastic.
With no intention to return. to
With
city
no
council.
intention
Yes.
to return.
Right, second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Council's adjourned.